Hello, good morning. Thanks for joining Microsoft Dynamics 365 Financial Training. So in this training, we try to cover the contents which I shared with everybody, and that's available on YouTube, and the link will be shared. And today's session is we will try to set up a company from start to finish. So for a company, we need some currency. And if a company is working in multiple currencies, then you have to have exchange rates. Then you have to define the chart of account, and you have to define the financial dimensions. And account structure is the combination of your chart of account and the financial dimensions. And for a company that's working in a certain time frame, so we will be defining the fiscal calendar, the periods, the years, and where you combine all the components like the currency, the exchange rate, the account structure, the fiscal year, and the other things. So that's the ledger. And to record the day-to-day transactions, we will set up the journals, and we will set up certain journal ledger parameters. So that's something very high level today agenda. So let's start. So this is the interface of Dynamics 365. On the left side, you see like the workspaces. That's something added by Microsoft. In that workspace, if you go to like bank management, and you can see the tiles here. So in bank management, you see all accounts, open bank reconciliation, all bank statements, and different accounts here. So those are the workspaces. So a workspace is assigned to users so they can see their operations at one place. So that's the objective of the workspace. And let me show you some other, like this is the fixed assets workspace. System administration, like here you can use manage users. You can see how many jobs which were failed. System setting, configuration, you connect to lifecycle, data management, and IT, and some other. So, so that's one thing. The other thing is like we have modules. In modules, we have account payable, receivable, budgeting, consolidation, credit and collection, payroll, retail, tax, and other stuff. In financial, we people will be covering the account payable little bit, account receivable a very little bit, and then we will be thoroughly talking about the budgeting. We will be thoroughly working with cash and bank management. We will be working with a very little bit with the credit and collection. We will be working with thoroughly with fixed assets. We will be thoroughly working with the general ledger, inventory management a little bit, organization administration a very high level, very little bit, procurement and sourcing some few steps from here, information management, very few products we will create here, production control we will not touch, project management we will not touch, retail out of scope, sales and marketing we will do a little bit here. Service management we will not touch. System administration we talk about a little bit. Tax we will do this thoroughly. Time and attendance, we will not touch. Transportation, no. Vendor collaboration, no. Warehouse management, we will talk a little bit about this. So that's something about the modules, which modules we will cover thoroughly, which modules we will not touch at all, which modules we will talk about a little bit. That's something. So that's something about the navigation. The other is on your right, you see like it's a user, you can sign out from here. If you need any help, you click on this question mark. There is a gear button. If you click here, you see different tasks here. As we move along, we will see these. So if you need to give feedback, this is for messages. If the system giving you some message, those will be shown here. And this is the search thing. So we will be using this search thing too much. So if you click here, if you want to create some chart of accounts, so just write CHA. So there is no need to write complete. So you just write 3 letters enough. Chart of account. That's it. So you see, like you get it. The first thing is the chart of account. Okay. So the other thing is you see here USMF. This is out of the box companies configured by Microsoft. So there are multiple companies which are coming out of the box for demonstration purposes. So today we will create our own company and try to make it working. Okay. So what's the first step? So if you assume like in a real scenario, you need to set up a company, what's the first thing? You need to think about a name first, and then you get it registered with some registration authority. And then you think about it like it's this company will be operating in which country, and it will be dealing with which currency, and the time period, and your chart of account, and your dimensions. So these few things you need to consider, and you think. Okay. So and another thing is like if you're going to create a legal entity or a company, so that will be in which module? So to think about that, it's very simple because legal entity is a sort of organizational thing. So that will be in the organization administration. So that's easy. So we go to organization, and here you see the legal entity. Let's go there. Okay. So already created entities are being shown here. Now we are going to create a new one. Let's do it. And I need somebody to give me the name. Yes, please.
Last time I have shared with Malik Associates is a company.
Malak Incorporated, INC, if it makes sense.
INC, yes, yes, it makes sense, more sense.
Okay, and what should be the code? MIC?
MIC, fine.
MI. Okay, so country is, let's assume, Pakistan. Okay, so we're done. So you notice like here you see the company now, MIC, Malak Incorporated, MIC. So once you create a legal entity, the system automatically switch to MIC. So what else you need to do here? You have to assign the language here. So if you click here, you will see lot of languages. So I'm interested in English, US. So that's another thing you're going to do. Another thing is you have to define the time zone. So in which time zone your company will be operating. So let's pick the time zone for this. It's the Islamabad Karachi time zone. Okay. You can add some memo, you can add the address. This company is available to everybody, so I appreciate like this is being owned by Malik Saab, so he will be updating the other information like the address, the contact information, and some registration number and the other stuff. So, but nothing is mandatory. So I'm saving it and I'm closing it. So I have a legal entity. Okay, what's the other stuff? So next is I need to look for the currency and the exchange rate. So let's figure out those things. So go to the general ledger. So most of the financial objects are being placed at this module. So general ledger. So here you see the currencies. So click here, currencies. Microsoft already provided lot of currencies, so you don't have to create your currency. So if you click here, right here, PKR. So there is a standardization of currencies. So there is a full name and there is a three-letter currency code. So for Pakistan, it's PKR. For US, it's a USD. And for European countries, it's a Euro, EUR. So that's something. So you don't have to define your currency, but if you're implementing dynamics to that country for which the current currency is not available, you click here, new, and then create it. So that's not difficult. Okay. The other thing is like if you're working in multiple countries with the different currencies, then you have to define the exchange rate type and the exchange rates. So exchange rate type you define. You have exchange rate types. Type it's a higher level. So you're just defining like what type of exchange rate you need. So some exchange rates you will be using for budgeting, some exchange rates you will be using for closing, some exchange rates maybe you're using uh, for depreciation or some other stuff. So it's all your business requirement. So here you're going to define your exchange rates. You click here new. You can define your own. Let's say MIC default. You can define the calendar as well. So this exchange rate is applicable to which calendar. So I'm not going into that detail. So I'm just define the exchange rate type, and then Microsoft also provided the exchange rate providers. So let's create a new provider. So they provided three like banks or three organizations who provide you the exchange rates. This is India, and this is the Central Bank of Europe. This is the Russian Federation. Let's pick this Russian Federation or Central Bank of Europe. Let's click it. So you see the like some connection strings are here which will be fetching the data from that organization. So that's it. You just have to configure up to that extent. If you have some exchange rate provider which is not being here listed here, you can configure it and you have to do some customization or some maybe development in that part. So we have a provider. Now let's import the currency exchange rates from these providers. So here the system is asking to provide the exchange rate type, which is MIC default, asking for the providers we just created, and import as of today. Yeah, it's okay. You can provide a date range as well. So if you wish to change some setting here, you can do, click OK. System will take a while. General ledger. So we need to see like how many exchange rates are being imported. So you click here, currency exchange rates. You have just 3-4 currencies. So you don't have to provide, like if you are providing euro to USD rate, like here, you don't need to provide the opposite, like USD to euro, that's not requirement. So you have to provide just one way exchange rate, that's enough. Okay. So but we working in PKR, so you have to define that rate as well. So let's say from USD to PKR, you add here, you have to find out the rate. So let's try to find out the rate using Google. So it's 110.77. Start date is today. Exchange rate is this. Let's add one more. Euro to PKR. Start date is today. Okay. Another thing about the currency rate is, so we adding a currency rate starting with today. So if the currency rate remains same tomorrow and day after tomorrow, you don't need to enter it. So the system will see like if there is a change, that should be reflected here, that should be added here. Otherwise, system will accept the last entered rate and consider like it's valid from that date up to the current date. So I hope you understand this. So that's a advantage, like it reduces some work. So we set up the exchange rate provider, we know how to create a currency, how to fix the data from the provider, how to enter new currency exchange rate. So we completed this. So let's go to the fiscal calendar. So this is the fiscal calendar here. So these are shared. So I see like there are many fiscal calendars are available, but let's create a new one, new calendar. Let's say MIC fiscal calendar. Okay, so there are different ways to define. I'm considering it's a calendar year. Like my company is working from January to December, so that's simple way of defining a calendar. But you can define like if a company wish to have like periods 4, 4, 5, like 4 weeks, and then 5 weeks. So you can do that as well. So how you can do that? So that's an assignment for everybody. So you try to do it. If you have any problem, we will discuss in the next session. And if you need any help, you can ask me, and I will ask somebody to demonstrate that in let's say 5 minutes. So we not doing that. So our fiscal year is starting from 1st January, ending 31st December. The name is 2018. I'm creating it. You see, 1 year is created. Now, if you need to add more years, you just click here, new year. It's automatically filling everything by considering already created year. So it's copying that, create it. So just a 2 button click. So you can create as many years as you wish. So that's something with the fiscal calendars. You have like 12 periods. The first period is for opening, the last one is for closing, and it's also showing the quarters, the month. So these are for reporting purposes. So every period is like from 1 to 12, these are operating periods. So the function that the company will operate in these periods. Okay, let's go back. So we configured the currencies, we configured the calendars. We need to see the chart of account. Okay, let's create that. So chart of account is here. Already some chart of account are being shown. Let's create new one. Okay, you save it. Now you can add your main accounts right from this screen. You click new and you start defining your accounts and this. So that's one way of doing it. But it's time consuming. Like if you have 200 or 300 accounts, it's time consuming. The better way is you create your chart of account in a Excel sheet and you load that Excel sheet in the system. So I expect like in the next session, somebody will come up with chart of account. We try to load those chart of accounts using the system, and the workspace for loading, importing or exporting the data is the data management. So we will be exploring this data management in the next session as well. Okay, so that's it. So you create chart of account and we're not adding any account here. Okay, let's go back. Okay, so let's talk about the financial dimensions. So here you see the financial dimensions. Financial dimensions like if you have to segregate your, let's say, salaries in different departments, in different business units. So you don't have to create those many main accounts. You create just one main account salaries and you can divide or segregate that salary in different business units. So it helps to have fewer number of main accounts so that that's manageable. So there is a cost center. You click to the dimension values, so you see how many cost centers you have, the trade shows, marketing campaign, production, logistics, so different cost centers, project, store. So there are many financial dimensions which are already being created for the demo companies. If you need to create new, so you click here new. There are two methods to create the financial dimension. The one is use values from. If you click here, so there are already like created the department, the items, the region, resources, stores. So these objects are being defined somewhere else in the system, and you can reuse those values like customers. You define customers in account receivable. You define your customers in sales and marketing. So you don't have to redefine those customers in again in the financial dimension. So you just pick here customers, and if you click the values, so those will be shown. So here you give your name like MIC customers. So those will be available. So that's the one possibility. So customer, let me show you the customers. Right now we don't have any customer for this company as we haven't created any. Account receivable, all customers. This is just for your eyes. So far we haven't created any customer. Customers are not being shared across the legal entities, and that's understandable. Nobody wants to share the customer. And if you go to accounts payable, vendors, you will not find any vendor here. But if you go to some other company, USMF, you find vendors here, and vendors are can be copied to some other legal entity. So vendor can be shared, like if you're buying something from a vendor and you like that vendor, the vendor is good, and you have some other legal entity, you can ask that legal entities, look, this is a good vendor. You can also buy from this vendor. I'm sharing the contacts. That makes sense. That's okay. But if you have a good customer, so you're not like sharing that customer with other legal entities, telling others, look, this is good customers. So you start business with him. So maybe you're losing business with that customer. So that's not expected. So you can share this vendor, let's say MIC, this company, and you have to have the vendor group. So those should be created there, and currencies should be there. So that's something I was explaining. So let's go back. Okay, coming back to the main point, general ledger. Okay, so we were trying to discuss the financial dimensions. So if the objects are already being created like customers in account receivable, you can reuse those values in your financial dimension. But if you want to create your own values, you you click the custom dimension, and here you see like MIC business units. Save it, It's not allowing spaces. So you have to activate it. Otherwise, it will not be available. So you create it and then you go to the dimension values, and here you create the values for your dimension. You keep adding like business unit 1, save, new, business unit 2, save, you go back, you activate it, and if you click here the dimension values, you will be able to see those dimension values, business unit 1, business unit 2. So in this like demonstration, I shown you like how you can use the dimension values from the existing object. So you create a dimension using these objects, so you don't have to enter the dimension values. You can use the custom dimension, and then you have to define your values by yourself. So that's the dimension. Let's see business unit created in the system. So you have these values: home, auto, IT consulting practice, electronics, sporting, chemical, fashion, Tokyo, Osaka. So these are some business units. So we will be using this financial dimension. Okay. There is another navigation. You go to the organization administration, and then the organization, and then you see the operating units. So you click here, and in this operating unit you create new, and from here you can create a department, you can create a cost center, you can create a value stream, business unit, branch, rental location, region, retail channels. So that's another assignment. So I am expecting like somebody is writing what's the expectation and what's the assignment they're supposed to do up to the next session. So the next assignment is you have to explore like what's the purpose of these operating units, when we use which operating unit in which scenario. So what's the like meaning of business unit, what's its branch, what's this region, what's the cost center, what's a value stream. So that's another thing we're going to explore. If you have any question, we will discuss in the next session. Okay, coming back to general ledger. In general ledger, let's create a account structure. So account structure is, it's a combination of a chart of account. Already you see like there are many account structures are being there. We can see like manufacturing balance sheet. So this is a account structure, like it's having all the accounts for the balance sheet starting with 1 up to 3, and it's having the business unit and the department, and that's it. So if you click here, you see like this star means you are allowing the blank values. Blank values mean business unit is optional. If you click here, then that means you have to enter the business unit. If you click, so it's optional. So you can enter it or you can skip it. So we be using this setting. If you want to add more financial dimension, you click add segment. So the already defined financial dimensions are being shown here. If you need to add new financial dimension, you click on this. Let's say we let's add the store. So store being is added. So you click here, and if you want to remove it, you click segment action, and you delete this store, and you can move left or right. So what's the objective of moving left to right? So basically, in when you're doing the transactions, when you're entering your amounts or you're picking some accounts, so this is the order will be like first you have to enter the main account, and then the value which you will be entering, that's for the business unit and then for the department. If your hierarchy is like it's a main account and then the department and then comes the business unit, which is not appropriate, you can click here and then you can say like it's moved to left, which I'm not doing. So you can move left or right because that's important. So I edit store. Now let me delete it. Yes. Okay, so I will be using already created account structures. Okay, this is the manufacturing balance sheet, and this is the manufacturing profit and loss. Let's see that. So it's saying like main accounts range, but starting from 4 up to 9, and business unit and departments. Here you see something different. What this means? It means like your department may be blank, or you can enter 022. And if you enter 022, which cost center you can add? It's 7 up to 8. And here in this range, only like department is restricted. You only can enter 023. You are not allowed to leave it blank. And but cost center may be blank, or you enter from 9 to 12. Okay. So we know how to create the account structure. So account structure is nothing. It's just your combination of your main accounts and your financial dimensions. Okay, let's go back. So we have like everything which is required to set up a legal entity. So let's go and create a ledger now. Let's combine everything. So when you create a new legal entity, the ledger will be created, but it's not having all the components. So here you need to pick the chart of account. We created a placeholder like this. Pick it. You need to pick the fiscal year. We created this. Balancing financial dimension, we talk about this a little bit later. Account structure, you have to add. You have to pick the currency, and we picking PKR. Reporting currency is PKR. Exchange rate, we define the exchange rate. So this is MIC default. So when we're doing the budgeting, we will define the budget exchange rates, because exchange rates for budgeting may be different with the exchange rate with your day-to-day transactions. So if you're going to create the revaluation associated with your different currencies, so that will be set up here. We will do that later. Okay, let's add the account structures. Manufacturing balance sheet. Yes. We add another manufacturing profit and loss. Okay. So that's something you have to add. You have to add the chart of account. But you see, like you never added any main account to the chart of account. It's just a placeholder. So this chart of account will be picking the main account from these structures. So structures are standalone. So you just give a structure and you define your main accounts and these structures and those will be here. Okay. What do you think? Like, will be having any main account here? Or we have to define? The answer to this is it's just a like a structure, just telling the structure how the main account is being linked with the financial dimension. That's it. And here it's just a placeholder. Chart of account is just a placeholder for all your main accounts. So we never define any main account. So what we can do, let's do it. Let's do it very quickly. We go to data management. We export. Let's say chart of account. We need an Excel. We want to get the main accounts. If anybody has any question at any time, they can ask. Unmute and then they can ask. Let me click on filter. I don't want to have all of my main accounts. I want to get main accounts which are linked with the shared chart of accounts. So Microsoft provided this. Okay, let's export it. It's taking a while.
I have a question. Sadiq Saab, take the opportunity of the time because it's exporting and it will take a while. You have explained the default dimension, the custom dimension. When you are associating with a count structure, is it a constraint that with a single chart of account you can attach one or more account structure with a single chart of account?
What do you mean, like with the one chart of account? We never associated chart of account with the structure. Structure is just the main account pattern and your financial dimensions. That's not associated with your main accounts are being associated with your chart of account.
Okay.
And your structure is associated with your main account. So just the format, like how you structuring your main accounts. Let's see the main accounts here.
Fine.
And maybe let me complete it, then maybe we will be in a better position. So this is the file. Enable it. So this file is showing the chart of account and your main account. So your main account is basically associated with your chart of account. If I go to your chart of account, general ledger, and accounts, chart of account. So if you go to shared, you see like the main accounts associated to this chart of account. If I go to MIC, you are not able to find any main account, but as we never associated any account to this chart of account. So that I'm going to do now. So my chart of account name is this. I'm clicking here. I'm changing to this, and that's it. I just want like all these main accounts should be linked to this chart of account. So I did this. I go to data management again. I'm going to import it now. Let's give some name. Chart of account. Import for MIC. Format is Excel. Main accounts. Pick the file. File is here. You click here, import. While it's being done, let's go revisit the account structure so maybe you have better understanding. So you create your chart of account, which is a placeholder for the main accounts. That's one thing. And then you have in this accounts, you create chart of account. Beneath that chart of account, you create main accounts, and you can create main accounts right from the navigation. You see, like here you see the main accounts. Why? Because it's been completed. If you go to the staging area, you will see some of the accounts are being created. So that's one of the reason, like these accounts are being created. So that's one of the reason you see, like the main accounts are being linked with your chart of account. You can add new accounts to existing accounts. You can add, you can delete, so you can manipulate this. So that's one thing. If I go to chart of account, your MIC, so you see here MIC, all chart of accounts are being listed. So that's one thing. Go to the structures, financial dimension. I guess you have, if any question, you let me know. So financial dimension, you can use the existing objects, you can create new. So the structure, configure the account structure. So in these are generic. These are not chart of account specific. These are main account specific. You just tell the pattern. If we go to the manufacturing profit and loss account, you're not associating any chart of account. You're saying, just saying, like your main accounts are from this range. So if in your chart of account, the main accounts are not in this range, so this will not be implemented. This will not be used. So so you just saying, like if the main accounts are in this range, whatever the chart of account is, so you're going to use these financial dimensions with these parameters or with these constraints. Let's see this. Is that completed? It's done. So we have 435 main accounts which are associated with your chart of account. Is that clear to you, or if you still have any question, we can talk about that, Mr. Malik?
It's clear so far.
Okay, thank you, thank you. Okay, so let's revisit the ledger again. I take about 10 more minutes if it's okay, and then we will stop because we wasted some time at the beginning. Next time we will start in time and finish in time. So we done. We okay. So we created different paces which are required for a company, for a legal entity, and then we put all those paces together in a ledger. So it sits in a working state. Okay, let's see some other stuff. Let's go to account payable. And if you go to account payable and account payable parameters. So in every module, you will see like there is a setup, and in most of the situations, you will see the parameters label as well. So you click here. We discuss all these things in details as we move on. So you see here the number sequence. You see, no number sequence is being assigned. So there is a vendor account, there is an invoice, there is an invoice voucher, there is a credit note. So you have to have the number sequence associated with these objects, but system is not assigned any number sequence. And it's very difficult to create the number sequence and to assign to each object. So it's another project. So what Microsoft did, like if you go to the organization administration, there is a number sequence. So click here. So these are the number sequences which are already being created. You can add new and you can assign to your area. But there is another button like generate. If you click here, So moving forward, we will be using the shared main accounts, which we adopted for our current chart of accounts. So I appreciate if you people like look into those accounts and get familiar, and so we will be able to do the transactions with those accounts. It will take a while. If you have any question, we have a few moments you can ask. Next. So you see like it's proposing a lot of number sequence. So the format is this. So it's also creating some number sequence with ITCO. This is maybe like someone created a company, but that never created the number sequence. So the system is proposing at this moment, do you want to create number sequences for those legal entities or not? So we don't wish to. So you go to this format and you say begin with MIC. We interested in this legal entity right now. So click apply. So you see like those are being filtered. So these are the number sequences which we require. You click next. So it's saying like for the account payable, it's creating 87 number sequence, receivable 81, bank for 9, basic 6. It's giving you a summary like it's creating how many number sequence for which area. So let's click finish. Okay, if you go to account payable parameters, number sequence, so you see like those number sequences which are being created are assigned to different areas. So that's a big job which are being done by the system. So that's one activity you're going to do to make your legal entity operative. So we be ready to make the transactions now. So let's create one. Okay. So you ready to go. So what the next step you have to do? So you have to buy the stationery to record the transactions. So in a normal old-fashioned scenario. But right now you have electronic books. So what we have here, you have to create the journal names. The journal names, it's just the journals you create for entering the transactions. Let's do it. We're going to create one journal and make one transactions and then be over. We will be done with today. So let's create new. Let's say journal. Okay. There are different types of, there are variety of books which are being used for different purposes in daily life. So there is a one book where you record your bank transactions. There is a one book where you record the customer payment. There is a one book where you record the vendor transactions, vendor payments. So likewise, like in Microsoft Dynamics, you have variety of book types. So one may be journal is for allocation, one journal may be for budget, one may be for cash, one for elimination, one for tax, one for payroll. So we will talk about all these as we move on. But your journal is of type daily. So we're using this daily. And you see like whatever is in red, that's a mandatory. So you have to assign a number series to this. So how you do that? So if you go to this like arrow, tip and you right click here. You see view details. You click here. So it leading you to the place where you can create a number sequence. If it's already been created, you can view its detail and you can modify it. If it's not there, you have the option to create it. So let's click this new. Let's give a name. Journal. Okay. The scope, let's talk about a little bit about this. The scope may be shared, like it's being shared with all the legal entities. But normally we fix it with the company. So only MIC will be using this. Okay. So if your scope is MIC, so then there is no need to use this MIC with that number. So we can remove it. Okay. And we want to prefix the number with journal, and its length will be 9, and it's it's not manual, and it's continuous, so it's 1 2 3 so on, it's going in that way. So that's some setting you have to do. Let's save it, go back, and in order to go back you can press the escape button, or you click this cross, it will take you back where you were before. So here you have to pick that journal, you get it. Okay, you save it. So we have one book. So you can associate your financial dimensions. So from where these financial dimensions are being coming? So these financial dimensions are being coming from your account structure, which you associated with this company, and where you associated that account structure. So that's the ledger. So in the ledger, you're telling like which account structure you're going to use, and in those account structures, you define which financial dimensions you're going to use. So that's something the setup we made. Okay, let's do one transaction and then be over for today. So journal entries, you click here, journal. Okay, so you click new. So there is a one batch number which is associated with all your transactions. So this is from where it's coming. Let me show you. It's coming from, if you go to general ledger, you go to general ledger parameters. Okay, so there is another setting, like if you go to general ledger parameters, there is a batch transfer rules. So if you are creating like some objects in account payable or receivable, so those are your sub ledgers. So they are being integrated with general ledgers. So how they will be integrated, using which object, we talk that later. So if you need to sync those sub ledgers with your general ledgers, so there are different possibilities. There are different three possibilities like synchronous, asynchronous, and scheduled job. So we wish like those will be synchronous. So if you make any transactions, any entry with the subledger, that should instantly be available in general ledger. So that's one setting you have to make. And yes, go to the number sequence. So here you see the journal batch number. So this is the sequence which is being used for all of your journals. So this is common with all of your journals. So you pick your journal here, this one. Okay, click on lines. Pick sub account. Let's say we getting long-term loan from a bank. So let's say 100,000, and we putting that in our bank. So we haven't created our bank account. So let's use USD. Account is USD, but currency is PKR. So let's validate it. So it's okay. So let's post it. You see, like the here voucher is great. So it's not available as of now because it's not posted. So once it got posted, it will be enabled. So you can see the accounting. So you see it's enabled now. If you click on the voucher, you can see it. Let me take two more minutes, and then I will show you like how you can see all these accounts in a trial balance. Let me show you the voucher first. So this is the transaction which is being, it's a double entry. So showing which account is credited, which account is debited. So, okay. So let's go to general ledger. There is a concept of financial dimension set. Let's create one. You can use this one. This is like main account plus business unit. And here you have only main accounts. So in main accounts, you're just using this main accounts. You're having a combination. You're defining financial dimension sets is nothing. It's just a combination. It's similar with the account structure. So how you want to see your trial balance. So that's something you set up here. You're having maybe you're defining maybe 5 or 4 financial dimension with main account in your account structure, but you don't want to see all of your five financial dimension in your trial balance. So you may be having different combinations. Maybe you want to see like main account with chart with cost center, and maybe you want to see only the main account, or maybe you want to see main account with business unit with department. So here you would define different combinations in the financial dimension set. So that's one thing you're going to do here. This is also shared across the companies. So let's go here and go to the trial balance. So here you see like financial dimension set. Here you have to pick. So we picking just main account. You can change it. All those are being shown here. Okay, you click here, calculate balances. You see the trial balance. It's the same thing. Like your bank account is being debited with the 100,000 and your long-term loan is being credited. So let me summarize what we did today. We created one legal entity. We created chart of account. We associated main accounts which are being copied from a shared chart of account provided by Microsoft in our company. And then we created a account structure which are we haven't created. We just used already created account structure. The account structure is nothing. It's just a combination. It's just like combining your main accounts with your financial dimensions. And we learned how to create new financial dimensions using the existing objects and custom financial dimensions. And then we learned how to add more currency, how to use the currency rate provider, how to set up currency rate type, how to fetch the data from those providers, and we did that. And then how we have many different pieces and how we combine all those pieces. We can do that in a ledger. We did that, and then we created the number sequences we from the organization administration using the generate functionality, generate button. So after that, we created one journal and we posted one voucher. So that's something we did today, and we will follow our schedule, and next session will be on Monday. So I appreciate if you send me an email. So I will be having a group. If I have any update or anything I want to share, I will share with you. Thank you very much for staying with me.
Uh, Thank you, Sadiq Saab.